Hey everybody, welcome to Raising Vibrations. So today I talk about a interview, dialogue, discussion that I had with a fellow evolutionary astrologer, Ari Moshe. We did this last week Wednesday when Mercury retrograde was in Virgo and it was conjunct the Sun. And it was interesting to me because when we sat down and we did this live stream, we really wanted to live stream to our individual communities. We hopped on and we set up the live stream, which some of you may have joined, and we had this really fantastic conversation around the Virgo archetype. I felt that it had so much pureness to it, and it really captured the essence of what it means to go through Virgo processes in our lives. And at the end of the call, we noticed that for me personally, the voice had sounded as if I was actually speaking while I was consuming helium. My voice was high pitched. It was interesting. And for Ari, his volume was actually super low. So needless to say, when you go ahead and watch this video, you will experience Ari's voice a little bit lower initially in the beginning, and my voice will have more of a high-pitched tone to it. If you can tolerate that, you'll actually see that this is probably, in my mind, one of the best Virgo videos, conversations available, because it demonstrated so many aspects of the Virgo process, including the most obvious one, which was how do we accept things in life that don't work? How do we allow ourselves to not see this recording in its imperfection and go, nope, this shouldn't be in existence. It's not perfect. All the different reasons that we can give for something to not exist in reality because it's not perfect. The very nature of this dialogue itself, not only in its essence, but also the insight and wisdom that we shared through our conversation, captures this archetype in a way that I think will deeply enrich your ability to understand Virgo at a deeper level. So here is my conversation dialogue with a good friend, evolutionary astrologer Ari Moshe, and dive into it. I really hope that, like I said, you'll enjoy this, and I'm excited to hear your comments at the end of this video as well, by the way. So without further ado, let's get into this video.
Nice. So we've got all the devices recording, all of the things.
There you go.
Hey, Kathy.
Where's Mercury right now?
It is in Virgo and the moon is in Gemini.
We're Kazimi. Okay. And it's squaring the moon. So we're at the essence here.
Yeah. That's actually something, one of the reasons why I felt inspired to share the space with you was because I like the idea of diversifying the way that we experience EA. And I feel that you are somebody who definitely can add depth to understanding EA. And here's another voice. And for people that are in my community, not only introducing you to them, but also getting another take on how the astrology works. Like for me, I like to work with the kind of emotional processing of that's what the astrology means to me. So when I interpret the transits, I often label an experience and define the experiences as how are these transits deepening our connection to ourselves and also revealing what is separate in us, right? So, but when I hear you talk, you do the same, but in a different way. And so my question to you is, can you elaborate a little bit on what you just shared? Like the essence, like that's a word that I wouldn't necessarily use. But it to me, when I hear it, it's beautiful. So
Sure.
just in terms of the transits.
Let me just share my screen here and speak to this. You know, within every retrograde cycle, there are different phases. And I think we often lack that sensitivity or appreciation that it's not just direct or retrograde. There are so many nuances to planetary movements. And I'm very, very interested in just really cultivating more of a felt sense of the inherent relationship between the sun and every planet.
Yeah.
So for Mercury and Venus, meaning all planets that are before the Earth's orbit, Mercury and Venus, the midpoint of the retrograde journey is, of course, the inferior conjunction with the sun, right? For all planets outside of the Earth's orbit, that's going to be the sun opposition to that planet. So whenever the sun's opposite a planet outside of the Earth's orbit, that's like the very midpoint. So just midpoint, that's the essence. Sun essentializes. Sun is centralized focus, purpose. So wherever the sun is transiting, that's where life is happening. It's such an interesting thing also when you combine that with retrograde. So wherever the sun is, this is where at this moment in time, this present moment, where there is a pulse of creative life force emerging. And so the confidence,
Yeah.
a sort of entitlement to create, to live, to engage, like the energy of the sun always requires some level of, I have permission to be alive, to do something with life. Just that's what the sun is about. And if we're not connected to that, nothing happens. It's like you just don't want to get out of bed. So when in this case Mercury is at that midpoint of its retrograde journey, that creative life force, that purpose, that coming into aliveness and entitlement to create and to engage with experience in life is unified with this Mercury retrograde archetype. So it's both a highly creative time, but it essentializes this Mercury retrograde. Like there are essential, in this case, thoughts, developments, edits, things you're working on, ideas, information, content. We're organizing our reality and formulating new ideas and thoughts in ways that are essential to whatever's coming together. It's like the Mercury retrograde theme in general speaks to that, right? But the essence of it is we're going to be adding thoughts to our mind that are going to be other than what we thought we would think. We're going to hear things, learn things, consider things if we're open to that retrograde flow. And it's going to add to the template of reality in our mind, how we've organized it, how we understand it all works together. These new thoughts and new perspectives, new ideas, it's going to enhance and build a more holistic understanding of reality. So in this case, to creatively express this and what we just did, which is just so much fun, it's engaging with the troubleshooting. Like the whole essence of Mercury retrograde in Virgo is find new ways to troubleshoot. There are new solutions and new ways of organizing a reality and making things work, putting things together. And we can direct that technologically. We could also direct that interpersonally. So it's just fun to see what's happening right now as we just had this fun little journey of figuring out how to simultaneously live stream on different platforms at the same time. And then, of course, it's squaring that moon in Gemini. So it just really, now in the next couple hours, this is a current chart. Now in the next couple hours, 3-4 hours is really whatever you're doing right now. For those listening, this is it's intellectually stimulating moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what's really interesting about what you shared was that about half an hour ago, I came off a call where I've got a program at the moment that's being run called the Immersion course. And the idea behind it is I've taken these people on a journey to learn EA from a deeply somatic experience. And a big part of the way that we're learning the 12 archetypes, and in this particular week, so just an hour and a half ago, was in the sign Gemini. And what was so beautiful to me to watch was how the essence of understanding Gemini or the archetypes in a more somatic wisdom perspective, like really integrating what the sign really means and how it plays out, the essence of it versus the labels that we put, but really the essence of it. And watching people have informed new ideas and new experiences, new ways of relating to their chart that opened up new dimensions, opened up new ways of processing their experience. And it was great to watch. And I just now, when you shared what you just shared right now, there was a connection that was made between what I'd seen and what you were sharing as well. So
we facilitate that. What did you do to allow for that embodied experience?
So the way I can answer this question is like this. the way that the program is structured is every week everybody will get a series of videos, and the way that it's been structured is the first video is about the principle of the archetype. So just kind of getting the principle of it, and then using the natural zodiac to show how that archetype is built by its relationship with all the other signs. Okay, so Aries is not just Aries. Aries is anxiety of separation because of its square to Cancer. Okay, so right, exactly, and the natural inconjunct between the 8th house and the first house, and that kind of power, and then oh my god, I'm out of my comfort zone kind of thing. So labeling that so that we now have a framework, but then the next episode or the next video is going to watch a movie where you see that pattern in reality. So people now go on a journey and they watch Moana, for instance, and they're like, oh, that's where I see that anxiety of separation. I can see that tension between, I want to do this, but I have this destiny, you know what I mean? So they kind of do that. And then the third one is a deep memory recall. So go back to experiences where you've been in a place of crossing that threshold, and how have you reacted to it and responded to it, etc. And then the last video is more, it's a deep focus on Aries themes. So the keyword that I gave for Aries was presence. I'm here. So everybody got the action of having to take up space, and they would do that by getting into a power pose and noticing when there was an Aries moment where they needed to take up space, where they would feel that anxiety, but step into that Aries moment and say, hey, I don't need to do anything. I'm just here. Let's see where this goes, kind of thing, right? And just feel that somatically, and connect with the experience of the archetype, so that my hope is when people learn about like practice and apply their understanding of astrology, they're allowing their experiences to also guide their understanding, their intuition. And it facilitates a deeper connection with the client. If you see somebody with that Mars in Cancer, for instance, you can draw on your own experience of anxiety of separation as a way to kind of relate empathetically to somebody, you know, and it stops what I'm very sort of moved. You asked me a question the last time we talked. I know this is a very long answer about what is the leading edge of where my work is right now. And a big part of it is, how can we bring intuitive guidance into our astrology conversations and readings and analyses as ways of connecting with spirit? Let the soul guide the moment. And how do we get out of the way of that, right? How do we get out of the definitions of I need to learn everything, to just, hey, tell me a little bit more about that Mars in Cancer. I sense anxiety of separation, and let the person have a memory recall of that, so that's lived in them, that's present with them, versus them trying to intellectualize what does this astrology mean when they say this. So yeah, so that's how that was working, and everybody was experiencing the paradox of Gemini in a funny way.
The paradox of Gemini. So many thoughts. First, I've had that thought before. Because I love movies. I don't watch them enough.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would just love to watch movies all the time. I just love a good movie. And whenever I do, though, there's always like, oh my god, that's perfect. That's so Pluto. And like, I remember thinking about Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite films, the third Star Wars movie, where Anakin turns into Darth Vader.
Yes.
And this is such good Pluto material. You know, I just always have that sense of it'd be cool one day to create a course. I love that you're doing that. That's such a great way to learn, and so engaging.
Can we talk? I just want to say quickly, 1 second. You should absolutely do that, man. You should, when you have a moment, like, get involved in that process of using film and story and myth, and to really like enliven the archetypes. Because
I haven't thought about it in like a year. So I forgot until now. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Like, on my Virgo list of all these things I want to do, and then that Virgo list, and you forget about it. Like, and you forget about it for months at a time. So yeah.
That's true. We're talking about troubleshooting, and so,
that's right.
And you were talking about how we could think about ways of doing things in different ways with kind of Mercury retrograde as it approaches the sun, right? And last week, Friday, our website crashed. Now, that's a good thing, because it hadn't really been updated in a way for like a year and a half. So there was it needed to have something to crash it in order for us to troubleshoot a way to fix it again, right? And what was beautiful about that experience was it was the perfect way of describing a Virgo process, because you touched one thing over here, and because that one little thing was interconnected in a sensitive way to everything else, it just crashed the whole site, right? And there's a lot of people that rely on that site for going back to the astrology school, recordings, etc. And so naturally, there's a panic that would arise.
Yeah.
But this time around, I responded to it completely differently, where I was like, no, in the past, we've hired somebody from a website called Upwork. There are many, many developers out there that will easily, for a small fee, kind of help you out. And you don't need to go and mess with all of this stuff when you can just get somebody highly qualified, knows exactly what they're doing. They're very detailed in their process, and they'll be of service to you if you just render the right price, right? And I was like, look, so it's okay. It's crashed. It's good. But we have Upwork. All we need to do is just go and select somebody that we resonate with, and then we'll get that done. And so within 2 days, it was completely back up and running. It was beautiful. It was clean. It was sorted out. There wasn't bugs. Everything was up to date. And that was another perfect example of this process of troubleshooting, especially with Virgo experiences, right, in our own lives, where things have maybe stacked up, where we've forgotten about it, or we haven't attended to those things, and there's a Pisces element to it where it's too much chaos, and it needs like a paralysis to occur for you to troubleshoot how to fix it and grow from where you can improve the structure or the process.
It's such a healthy perspective, because when a crisis happens, the most immediate sort of like superficial reaction is, oh, this is bad. I don't want this to happen. But in addressing it, usually more fundamental, older, unaddressed, even unknown dysfunctions are healed.
Yes.
I think about that all the time. It's like we, pretty frequently someone will break a glass jar or something in the kitchen. And, so in cleaning it up, of course, you want to be incredibly thorough in cleaning up glass from the floor.
Yeah.
But in cleaning up, it reveals all kinds of other, corners and areas where juice and dirt, and dog drool, like, got coalesced in a corner of the kitchen. Like the attending to details ends up bringing attention to the whole environment, and it heals the whole system. I actually have so many stories about that. Right now we have a huge ongoing rat issue in our house. It's been happening for a long time. And there are so many gifts that have emerged in the process of dealing with this rat issue, right? So of course we call management. It took a long time for us to kind of wrap our hearts around the possibility of killing rats, but we have kids and a dog, and we decided in the end, like, rats, peeing and pooping in our oven is not a good thing for our family. But my first, development was, okay, I'm going to take the oven out and look at the hole and seal the hole. And then apparently they're able to, chew through plywood, and they're coming in all these different ways. So finally realizing I'm going to ask. And like just that alone, there's like some kind of psychological development, one in the empowerment of troubleshooting, realizing I have the resourcefulness to deal with things, but then also realizing the tenderness and the humility of acknowledging, I don't know how to solve this. It's time to actually exterminate. It's time to deal. So we put up rat traps. This guy came and put up rat traps, the kind that just like will snap,
Yeah.
14 meters. And then they weren't coming frequently enough. And so the rats would get trapped. They weren't coming. So I had to learn how to, take the rat out, clean the trap, reset it, because they weren't doing that or responding to the phone calls. So I learned a new skill. So the Virgo in me is like, okay, cool. I'm learning a new skill. I've never thought I would be learning how to set a rat trap. And it wasn't working. And then I learned, well, if you have your human scent on it, like all of a sudden I'm becoming an expert at rat traps. And I'm just so touched by that. Not that like it's the thing I want to be doing, but that's Virgo, right? Like we deal with a problem, and in facing it, we don't just become thorough about, obviously, like I've cleaned the oven thoroughly. I found lost objects behind the oven. My expensive guitar tuner, which I was so happy to find. I didn't know where it went. Somehow it got behind the oven. This like $20 amazing chew bone that our dog lost also behind the oven. So like that was revealed. But there's something really beautiful about developing skills and finding myself. And this is sort of a Gemini Virgo thing for me. Like opening my mind to find myself growing and learning in areas I never would have considered. Like I'm learning how to do a rat trap, but I'm learning how to do it well. I'm troubleshooting something and taking it into my own hands.
Yes.
There's just something humbling about that. Website wise, I'm on WordPress. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on WordPress because I'm a sort of stickler to wanting to have control over things.
Sure.
I want creative control. I want to design it. I want to format it the way I want to format it. When I've tried other systems, there's too much sort of following someone else's structure. It didn't feel good to me.
Of course.
And I had a very particular vision of what I wanted to create. So it was a lot of research, a lot of learning. I hired a guy, he taught me WordPress, and he's there when I need him. But I've really learned how to work with WordPress.
Yeah.
And I've grown, I've developed. And now I'm at a point where it's so big. I have hundreds of people that are enrolled in my membership program through all the products and the courses that I sell. Anyone who buys anything becomes a member in my back end. That's how they access that product.
Yeah.
And I'm the financial person. I'm the back end. And it's at this point where it's like, okay, Kajabi sounds like a good idea. You know, open-mindedness to then let go of the constant management, either hiring someone eventually or moving on to just the flow of all those different experiences is so exciting. It inspires me because it's never just like this clear cut buy this thing, do this thing, and it's going to work. The Virgo, for those who have strong Virgo, like myself and like you, a part of our karma, a part of our learning, a part of our work in this life, and really our dharma, like there's a healing, there's a humility, there's like an opening of the heart even. A part of the journey is in really tending to the details and some personal healing that occurs through that. Just the energy of, you have Mars in Virgo, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have a Virgo ascendant. Both of that, your Mars squares your nodes. My Virgo ascendant squares the nodes. So the showing up to engage, to take it one step at a time, and to learn as you go. It's such a big part of the Virgo learning.
Yeah, I love it when we jam, because when you communicate, my head goes, there's so much to share, there's so many things, there's so cool, and the same, right? You're sharing it, and I want to kind of piggyback off of what you shared there, and almost in a way honor the Mercury Sun conjunction in Virgo at the moment. I mean, I'm not sure if it's in your 12th house or your first house, this conjunction, but yeah, your 12th. Okay, so there is a lot of healing that's coming from that process. And for me, being in the 8th on my Mars and Venus conjunction, and talking about Virgo processes as a way to heal other people through our conversation, but also acknowledge our own development as we've gone through these struggles. And so, as you shared your experience of going through this Virgo step-by-step process of having to sort out this crisis that's in your house, you know it's not good for the home, and how you described having to get your hands dirty and sort out the oven, and you didn't imagine this is happening. I remember the first time that I came into that experience, and it was when Jupiter was transiting my 8th house. And so for me, a big part of my soul's story with that Mars-Venus 8th house conjunction,
Virgo,
exactly, is healing the parts of myself that have not shown. My parents did not show what healthy boundaries were. So that there's a natural openness to everything, and an inability to know, okay, this is my need, and so this is a boundary that is being crossed. And because that Mars Venus is absent in that space, I don't know where that anger can be channeled to say this is where the boundary is, and then I also don't know where that need is with that Venus, right? So we move into this apartment, and the garden is over there, but super small. Okay, so it's like you walk out the front door, and then you have like a meter of concrete space, and then there's this massive bush that's in the way. and then this garden afterwards. And when Jupiter transited my 8th house, I found myself actually removing this bush. Okay, which was very, very difficult in the sense that it was massive and it was very complicated, right? The branches it wasn't high, it was sort of, up to my shoulder, 160, 150 centimeters. But it was complicated and the bush was very sort of intertwined. And so I found myself going, no, I need this to be gone because I'd like my children to have a garden. When I grew up, I had a big garden, and that's something that I need. I need that space, right? And I can't have this in front of me. So as I kind of removed this bush, I watched myself going into this deep scorpionic experience of relating to this experience as giving myself space to explore what it was that I wanted. And it's not a direct correlation to boundary work, but in a way it was, because as I moved this very rigid, closed protection mechanism that I had emotionally for myself, as this bush represented me coming into what that pain was like, coming into why that was there for myself. And so removing this bush, it took a process. But there was also something beautiful, and this was the first time I really understood how to work with Scorpio, Pluto, 8th house themes in a psychotherapeutic way. And that was that even though I took away the top of the bush, right, the roots that were in the ground were even worse when it came to entanglement. You couldn't just pull it out. It was not possible. And that's the Scorpio kind of theme, right? The natural square between Aquarius and Scorpio is trauma occurs when something is suddenly removed and there is the roots that are still attached, and you're feeling that sensitivity of loss and that exposed openness, but the roots are still attached. So that pain, that osmosis is still there, but there. So I had to go through a process, and that my Mars and Venus actually square my Uranus in the 11th house. So I have that natural square. And that's how I experience my karma. There's a very strong feeling of being taken from some place at a very young age and put into a new place, and a feeling so foreign that, in order to survive, I needed to be able to kind of disassociate or disown what was important for me. Does it make sense? And so this is what this thing was.
And
so,
yeah, please.
So digging up the roots and softening the roots around it and then pulling them out was a beautiful way of coming into Scorpio processes of, healing wasn't about ripping it out. It was coming into a soft-tended, feminine kind of way of pulling these roots out and understanding where these experiences were. And I was kind of relating it to my psychic roots being pulled out, kind of really taking that out over there. And then after that, there was this beautiful open land, but then I needed to create a gate. So then I had to put up a fence that was further, and I had to learn how to do that, right? And there's a new boundary that I established over there. And it was such a beautiful experience to go through when Jupiter was transiting my 8th house. And
what strikes me in your share is just the Virgo facet of it, because I can see two common reactions, like, oh, the roots are so deep, forget about it.
Right.
And that's like that disempowerment of Virgo in the 8th. There's too much to deal with. I'm not going to go there. Or that, like, it almost like feeling victimized by it and then trying to force. So that's the humility of Virgo. It's like, what else can you do? Like, what I'm learning constantly about Virgo is really it's about doing the job well and thoroughly, not perfectly. We can talk about that maybe, but well and thoroughness doesn't mean perfectionist. They're different archetypes, and that's been a big ongoing learning for me, right? But what I heard there was well and thorough. I'm going to complete that. I'm done when I'm complete, not when my psychology kicks in and gives me an excuse for why to be. I'm done when I'm done, and then you take the agency, and now I'm going to establish the boundaries that I'm choosing.
Yes, that's right.
Powerful.
Yeah. And one more piece. Yeah, right. And one more piece about that is that in the new home that I'm living in right now, that Virgo story has come into play. So we've had Mars transiting the 8th house, or my 8th house, and Mars transiting your 1st or 12th and 1st in Virgo. It's now in Libra, right? But while Mars was transiting the Virgo constellation, in my new house, we decided to put up a fence, but a big one that's complicated and requires a builder to come in and do all the measuring. Now, for me as a Virgo process, this was fascinating because the idea of foreign came in again. So I'm living in Sweden. I'm going to build a fence. It's very complicated. It's got intricate little things that I need to pay attention to. It's more complicated than the one that was there. It's longer. And I can't really do it wrong, because if I do, the value of the house is not, it doesn't stay. It devalues, right? And next door neighbor also gets affected by this. So I feel like so incredibly lucky to be blessed with an experience like this and to have this conversation with you, because it's me in a way putting language to an experience that I haven't yet been able to convey yet. So in building this, in getting this sorted, there are details that need to be understood, like how do you put the poles in the correct thing? How do you get them in the right direction? The land goes like this. This is a bigger process. The bars are different. There are rules that you need to do. And so I get a Swedish friend who now I also have to come into intimacy with, right? Eighth house themes. I have to form a relationship with this person in a way, and now he's a friend, right? And so I'm learning to not just, hey, could you come help me with this? It's, hey, I really appreciate your help and I'd love to hang out with you more and talk about things that are other than this job, right? So it brings me into a deeper connection with my environment. As I said, going back with Uranus on the South Node in Sag, growing up in South Africa, but now living in Sweden. The language is different. The experiences are different. The rules are different. So here I'm communicating with a Swedish man that's going to help me with this process, and he's giving me all the Swedish words for the building material, for the words, and I'm having to translate this in my head. So not only am I learning something new, I'm also having to learn new words at the same time. And in the past, I would have gone, this is too much. But now, because I've learned about this healthy process of Virgo, which is what you shared, right? How can I do it right? How can I take the time to do that? That's what I did. And so I was like, okay, I get this. Can you show me a step-by-step process? Anything I don't know, I don't feel insecure about, I'll go, hey, I don't know this. There's that humility piece, right? And then can you explain it further? And it was such an amazing experience. And now this fence is built over here. It looks amazing. And the next thing I'm like, come on, I want to do the next part of the house all by myself. I've got it.
There we go. That's it. Yeah. What occurs to me is it's almost like the physical actions that we're taking, that which we're developing, whether it's like measuring a pole and according to the contours of the earth, or, learning how to set a trap right. Like it's almost each little action is something inside of our own mind.
Yeah.
That we're healing. We're learning to engage some part of our own agency, some part of our own being. We're integrating more of ourselves. And if we are overwhelmed by, it's like doing the dishes. I'm overwhelmed. Well, that's something inside of ourselves. But if I see it and I say, I'm in control here, Virgo, I can do this. I can manage this. I can heal and clean this. It's because that's in my mind. That healing,
Yes.
that clarity, I feel clean on the inside. And so I'm going to see that mess as an opportunity to strengthen myself. But if I feel messy on the inside, I don't like how I feel. If I don't like who I am, I'm going to see that as something I don't want to deal with or attend to. Yeah, and I just thought as well, it's, whether we're hiring someone to do the job, like, let's say I only worked with some external structure to do my website, or if I'm doing it, it's really the same thing that's needed. Because however we're approaching the problem, like whatever the task is or the problem is, what's required is thoughtfulness and agency. What's my goal? What am I trying to achieve? And what are the steps to get there? So if I'm going to hire someone to take care of the kitchen rats, it requires diligence on my part to note, where are the rats?
Yes.
Where do I smell it? Like, I can't just hand over a problem to someone else, even if I'm hiring someone. Like, there's no situation in life, none, where we can hand over a task or a problem to someone else to solve completely. In the very least, we need to actually be able to identify and do the work of identifying the problem. Sometimes the hardest part is actually showing up to identify specifically what is the issue. Be like, oh, there's an issue. I don't want to deal with it. Please fix it. If we can't identify the issue, it's not going to be solved. It's no someone or life isn't going to just deal with it. That's a big part of the Virgo lesson. There's that teaching in A Course in Miracles that I've quoted often, which is, let me recognize the problem so that it can be solved. And there's like so much, it's very Pisces Virgo.
Mm-hmm.
It brings in that Pisces dimension, which is really every problem is the same problem and every solution is the same solution. So now we're like really looking at the spiritual dimension.
Yeah.
Not like, how do I brush my teeth better, not get cavities, or wash the dishes well? More so like anything that we perceive as a problem or a threat to our security and peace is the same confusion and mistake in our thinking. You know, but it's almost when we actually identify the specifics of what's going on in our physical reality, we can actually internally recognize there is no problem. There's just a calling to show up. Like, we don't think of, I have to go to sleep and I have to brush my teeth. That's a problem. It's not a problem. It's a thing to do. You know, so there's just a lot of empowerment and healing in just recognizing the tasks at hand and staying at peace in that process. That's that Pisces Virgo. It's like there's healing, there's perfection, there's beauty, there's wholeness, and there are miracles here. And the things that you are to do are just the things to do. They're not a big deal.
Yeah, that's right. And so today is cleaning day in the house.
You have a cleaning day.
Yes, because I'm Venus in Virgo. My partner's got Venus in Virgo. We have cleaning days.
Okay, cool.
So what's interesting about cleaning days is that it's not just your day of sorting things out. It's going to the places where piles of unattended energy has now existed, right? So it's kind of addressing those things so that the energy in the house kind of stays clean like it. And, I have Uranus transiting my fourth house at the moment, so I'm very connected to how the home works and what's functioning at home and how can we create order in places, and also what does an emotionally healthy home look like as well. And so there's a section in the house where all the books are and games and puzzle pieces and where my daughter plays games. And for the last, I don't know, 3 months, 4 months, every time I look at that place, I just have this sense of overwhelm that comes over me. I'm just like, I can't, it's irritates me. And today, that peace that you talk about was present. I just walked over to it and I said, this is no longer going to affect me. And I just got into the process. I showed up with that Virgo Aries thing and I just reordered stuff. And the level of emotional stress that released from my energy field after just reorganizing and throwing things away that were not there and looking at how that energy had been reorganized in a way that was calm and peaceful was such a blessing. And I was like, that is the energy I'm going to take now with me on these days. Because as you know, as a parent, there are days when you look at something and you go, that's not happening today. I have no energy left. and sometimes if you just let that slide, it just goes. So
I love that idea of a cleaning day. I'm gonna talk to Michelle about that. For me, every day is like, you know, I love going to sleep knowing that I'm gonna wake up the next morning without yesterday. And I think what you're talking about is more of a thorough, like addressing specific, right? And I love that, right? Because there's always going to be some sort of like coagulated area of mess that just, you know, I love the orientation as a way of living. And ideally, like the goal, the prayer, is not just like my living room and my kitchen, but it's my relationships, you know?
Yes.
It's also my inbox. It's also like last year, like how much I desire to tend to like look head on, straight on at what is messy. What am I still holding on to? And I think that's a part of, this is very Virgo 8th house when I think about it, but I think a part of like the soul work is there are some messes that are harder to, they're sort of like in conjunct, you know, it's like, they're harder to see. It's like clutter that we're carrying around for a long time. And I think like all we can do is just tend to the part that is accessible, like a knotted up shoelace. The part that is a little loose at the very beginning, and there's like a momentum, or we just give it soft, warm water. Hold the tail of the tiger. You know, there's something that builds, and it might take years. That's what I'm learning.
Yes.
until finally we can actually see it head on and then really clear it. And then when
That's right.
I mean, I'm in the middle of and I'm not going to go too personal on this level, but I think you are too, maybe. Well, no, you have Pluto in Libra, right? Don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
So
I have Pluto at 1 degree Scorpio. So I'm in my Pluto square and my Neptune square, and my secondary progress also moving into is in opposition to my Pluto. So my progress Mars is also on my Pluto. So we have a huge fixed angular, cardinal square in opposition to my natal Pluto now over the next 2 years, really.
Yeah.
So I'm dealing with just that Pluto dimension where there's a threshold of psychological self-knowledge that it doesn't matter how much. So my Virgo orientation is I want to organize it all, get it all figured out, and be able to map it. And I can't. It's just like there's so much. It's so humbling, but also hard.
I mean, for me, I spent 6 years in a process of healing that Virgo experience. And when I moved into this place that I moved into here, part of the contract psychically for me and my partner was the application of what we had gone through. So cleaning days manifested as a deep commitment in ourselves to move away from the past of that disorientation, right? And also kind of we were lucky in a sense that we're moving out of the toddler phase and children are a little bit more older. The mess is different.
How old are your kids?
So they're 10 and 8.
Wow. Okay, cool.
And then Marlo is, well, yeah, the other one is 17. So it's very interesting to observe that what you're sharing over there. I'm also in my Neptune square and I've got a Neptune square and a Neptune square in my moon. So my moon and Neptune are in direct opposition, and then Neptune squaring it, right? So, and then Pluto square at the moment as well, 29 degrees Libra. And what you're talking about here in terms of coming into letting go of things that you carry when you're younger. This is about trading innocence for wisdom, trading innocence for maturity. And that's another way that I like to explore the Virgo archetype when working with people. And just as a side kind of note over here, because it means in Gemini, I love how this conversation has deeply developed into the wisdom of Virgo, seeing that's the Mercury Sun conjunctions over here. You know, there's so many things we could talk about, but it kind of just naturally landed into this place. And I think I'm just observing that, and I'm loving that process. So coming back to the Virgo experience and thinking about Virgo through the lens of Demeter or Ceres and Persephone. And you know how Jeffrey talked about, you know, in EA, classic EA conversation, right? Virgo or Leo would be the pyramid where the energy's at the top, and then Virgo comes along and inverts it. And this natural relationship between, oh, I'm good at this, to, well, actually, there's a bit, you know, like, are you really? And right, exactly. And a lot of people, so many of us have suffered from Virgo complexes, where there's that sense of that perfectionism that you're referring to earlier, right? That part of us that doesn't want to do it because it needs to be perfect. And that's a section I want to address. But coming back to this kind of Ceres and Persephone story of how Persephone can represent innocence, and Ceres represents a part of us that wants to protect innocence from everything. And life comes along, Virgo, and abducts that innocence from us. We're initiated into an experience where ideally I would want my house to not have any rats. But oh my God, there's this scenario and the situation, and I'm abducted into this underworld of processing my emotions and processing my psychic experience. And you know, the idea of Persephone turning into the queen of the underworld is a beautiful way of seeing how Virgo processes reveal transmutation when we are willing to allow innocence to be traded for experience. And that's where perfectionism comes in, right? Perfectionism can be seen as Ceres saying there's absolutely no way that I will let something so innocent be tarnished by judgment of another person, or here's my piece of artwork, but I will never ever share that art with any person because I'm afraid of somebody saying it's bad, etc. So Virgo experiences, we need to get stuck in. We need to get involved in the process, right? To grow and to mature in that process.
Allowing innocence to be replaced by experience. It's so beautiful. And inherent within that archetype is experience is going to challenge us with situations that we don't know how to respond to. We don't have an answer for it.
No.
I had a dream actually a few nights ago, bizarre, where a particular politician, candidate person showed up in my dream. And there was like a Zoom meeting and they were talking. And this person was saying, humility is just about doing the job, whatever it is that you're here to do. And it's like the emphasis on whether it seems like a big thing or a small thing, like, humility is just doing it. And then someone asked a question, how do you know that you're not being delusional? Because a lot of people are like, oh, my job is to do this. And it's like, no, that's your delusion. And in the dream, I was really surprised because I had to think about it when I woke up.
Yeah.
In the dream, I just spontaneously, immediately answered, you're not delusional if you're not attached to the outcome. You have no concern with what happens as a result of you doing the work that you're doing. No belief about what should happen either. That's pretty profound.
It is. And in so many ways, if you just let that sink in, you can feel how it opens up your experience of life in a different way. There's so much contemplation there.
There is. It also says that our work and our purpose isn't for something else other than the moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in our domain to decide what things are for.
Yes.
We don't know enough. We don't have enough knowledge. It's only in our domain to seek to understand and align with sort of what the will and what our work is. So the whole Virgo, something you said earlier, elicited this thought, which is in the Virgo process will vacillate between maybe when you're speaking about the playroom, this overwhelm. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Which just for everyone to understand, this is where Virgo actually can become masochistic or sadistic, because when the environment or one's circumstances are out of whack and we feel victimized by that, we can direct blame towards another person. My life is messed up and it's your fault and I want to hurt you because of that. Like it's a real thing. It's no different than my life is messed up because I'm messed up and I deserve to be hurt. It's a real thing. And that Virgo 6th house archetype can easily express in either direction. But that's either way, it's not dealing with the situation. And then that it's like, I'm going to clean it up so that cleaning up never ever, I'm going to do such a good cleaning that cleaning will be annihilated. I'm going to clean so good that I'm going to clean up cleaning. After this cleaning will be so clean that I'll never have to clean ever again. It's never ever going to have, that's like this. You'll spend your whole day picking up dust. And I can
How many times I've been there.
Yeah. Just with controlling the various details of my life and needing to be able to recognize the wisdom of knowing how to stop.
I can't begin to tell you how many times I've come to that Virgo moment of like, okay, I'm just going to clean it, and then the cleaning is done, and I've cleaned everything that needs to be clean, and then there's this moment of Piscean chaos that starts to arrive like that, and then you get into this psychological reflex of no, don't mess it up, because it means I have to come back to this moment of cleaning.
Yeah. I never actually articulated this to myself before, but so I have a Virgo ascendant square in the nodes, which means I have a Pisces descendant square in the nodes. So what's my trip? If I can do it by myself, it'll be fine. Yeah. Then Pisces 7th house, that's where the chaos comes in. Someone else is not going to be as good at doing it as me.
Yes.
It's hard to admit that, but that's that tension between, Pisces 7 is forgiveness. It's completely letting go. And then Virgo 1st house is I have work to do. So yeah, I never quite formulated it in that way before.
And I like just circling back to what you talked about, how you would, teach. I mean, but you have Pluto in the second house,
I
if I'm
do.
not mistaken.
Yeah.
So that would make sense as to why, for me at least, why it's important for you to build the website and everything and learn it all, because that's an act of self-sufficiency as well,
Right. It's
in
very
one way,
that
right?
element. It's very much tied to wanting to be it's not just being in control of my resources, but building and creating a structural reality that reflects my value. Right.
Hmm.
I take a lot of time. Everything's a matter of how do I feel about it. Yeah. And so if
Yeah,
I'm making a choice or an agreement, but it doesn't feel good, doesn't feel authentic, and this is through the filter of my Sag,
yeah,
deep honesty and authenticity, feel authentic. The second house dimension for me is one where I don't actually feel like I'm living my life. I'm living someone else's. I have Venus Pluto conjunction too, Venus and Libra. It's very easy for me to feel that I'm agreeing to someone else's value system. Oh, you
yes,
colors, try this format, or this is how you want to set up your desk, or this is the equipment you want to use. And so it's helpful hearing perspective and advice, and of course all of that. But I always have to come back to listening to how I feel.
yes,
It's been a
yeah.
big learning for me.
That's powerful, and another way to kind of see how the polarity point of your Venus sitting in the eighth house Aries, is that right? You can see how that
Juno's right there in Aries.
well, there we go, right? So it's necessary for that Venus and Libra to be balanced by an Aries instinctual um, process. So
Yeah.
that's fascinating in many ways. I was I was going to talk a little bit about how the archetype of perfection. There's a guy called Pete Walker who has. Are you familiar with him by any chance, or know anything about him?
Mhm.
So he's written a series of books. He's born 1950, so Pluto Leo generation. But anyway, he wrote a series of books, and one of them that has helped me a lot is called From Surviving to Thriving, which is a book that talks about complex post-traumatic stress, right? And in this case, this book is very much written for people that actually have intense CPTSD, but it's definitely helpful for those that are just kind of processing their Scorpio stories. And there's a section in his book where he talks about perfectionist attacks as psychological defense mechanisms to protect you from betrayal or abandonment.
Okay.
Right. And you see this natural Virgo Scorpio sextile that takes place, right? And then forms that yod configuration to Aries as how somebody's impacting you and how that sense of intimacy or your boundaries may or may not be crossed in that process, and how it pulls you into a deep crisis internally and emotionally. And then
Mm.
how you can actually then form the polarity points of Pisces, Virgo being Pisces, an idealization of something that is pure, and then project that into the environment and then try and meet that perfection as a way of experiencing love. Right. So that's how I kind of broke it down into astrology. He doesn't do astrology, but this was kind of the thing there. And the last piece I'll say is that children form that when they're growing up, because to them, their parents or their environment, particularly the parents, are God consciousness, right? Or goddess. And so for them to do something wrong, Virgo, it means I must have got this wrong, not them. And so therefore they translate their actions as I must do better to feel that appreciation or love, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like the amount of people that have been able to break, like come into to working through that process has been an amazing experience, because Virgo can definitely be complicated like that.
That's really so. Let me recap or restate how I'm hearing this.
Mm.
Going backwards, like a child is incapable of placing blame on a parent. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that develops much later in life. The
Mm-hmm.
parent isn't. A child cannot perceive the parent as being bad or wrong. There and I really get that. I mean, there can be, for anyone who is a parent, you'll know this, and that's different than, a child can be in defiance,
Mm-hmm.
can try to push the boundaries, right, and cannot listen, can break rules, right, but they'll never be able. So when a parent is abusive or is acting in dysregulated ways or creating a chaotic environment or not holding proper boundaries, the child is incapable of internalizing, my parent has a psychological issue or a boundary issue, or my parent's wrong, I'm okay, I didn't do anything. Like, they can't do that. And so what you're describing is like such a beautiful way of framing it through that yod. There needs to be a way to kind of internalize that energy as a way to stay safe and protected. I imagine there are probably many different modalities, many different directions that could go
Yeah.
in terms of how a particular soul is internalizing that, right?
Yeah, that's right.
With this particular configuration, with Aries at the apex of the yod, so then the two legs would be Virgo and Scorpio. Would you say that is, okay, I'm going to learn how to operate solo or be alone because I the yod with Virgo in the Scorpio Virgo leg to that Aries yod is actually incredibly high stress. It's probably maybe the most high stress yod because there's a lot to do and you're trying to do it and you're constantly out of balance with the environment. Going too far, not doing enough, doing it wrong, and you're always going to be getting feedback. Too much, too little, not enough, not quick enough, too quickly. Like there's a lot of adjustment that happens. So it's almost like a way of staying isolated and staying in a place where I'm never going to be doing it right. Is that a right?
Yeah, 100%. And so what happens is the beauty of this conversation, I really do. I really love how this conversation emerged, considering the fact that we opened up with Mercury Sun conjunction and new ways of understanding Virgo, new ways of working through our emotional dynamics. And I'll tie this into how I see the rest of the charting also playing out as well. But we want feedback from the environment because it's needed, right? That's how we form relation with our environment, right? So Aries will act in a certain way, but if we haven't got the Capricorn Cancer axis integrated, as a child would not, it doesn't know where that boundary is, right? And so therefore it gets that reaction. Okay, mom got angry. I sense that there is a boundary here. Maybe this is not something I should cross again, kind of thing, right? So when you're talking about child being defiant or they're needing to push those boundaries to establish what's safe and what's not safe, right? That's the Cancer piece in this process. But along the road, that yard puts that stress in and says, wow, in this example, mom didn't say, I won't let you do that because it can hurt you. I understand that that's frustrating, but I can't put you in danger. Right? That would be kind of a way of the new way of parenting with Pluto moving through Capricorn, right? Or at least when you're in a regulated state, but it's not like that, right? So we can get abducted in our experiences with the Virgo process. We can come into dysregulation and chaos. And so that's exactly what happens. We create a protection that will now become perfectionist as an adult, a pattern in ourselves that will prevent us from taking any action in anything that we want to do. So we have these dreams, we have these desires, 8th house, and we never associate, we never choose that empowerment. We never take that Aries energy, and our life force gets constricted in this Virgo process. It gets coiled in, and people lose out on their life, right? They abandon their desires in one way. It becomes repressed. And that's where I think dis-ease and sickness can come into the Virgo process in many ways. So the value that I place on processing Virgo symbols and aspects in your chart, and really looking at where that perfectionist pattern exists within you, and ask yourself if you can, throughout the week, do something that pushes against this idea that if I get it wrong, I'm going to get in trouble. And just do it. Like, just make the cake wrong and experience what it's like to get it wrong, so that you can become familiar with things being wrong as the right way to heal. It's, if we're measuring success from perfection, it's never going to be there. But if we measure success based on getting better at it, you're winning.
And there's so much wisdom. We take ourselves so seriously, but if you think about children development, they're constantly getting things wrong. Right? The baby's constantly falling on their butt. And there's like an innate truth to perfection is never the goal, but staying engaged with this. And I want to give a moment to just contemplate this, because I think for many of us, the trap of trying to figure out the right answer. I mean, I could just think about how this operates for many people in terms of, like, what job do I take, or relationship options, or just all the different choices that we think we have in life that seem real and important. It's almost like there's and I think it's strong in our Western culture. I think it's stronger now in our day and age, perhaps, than it ever was. That's my sense of it. Because I think there's a lot of options, a lot of enticement, and a lot of stimulation, a lot of social stimulation. I mean, there are so many things we can do or direct our mind towards, right? It's actually very easy to wake up in the morning and not be in our body.
Yeah.
It's very easy, more than any other time in history, to totally have a functional human life and sit down the whole day.
Yeah.
And so there's a way in which we're not engaged with that like visceral leadership of just making choices, being stressed, being challenged, not knowing how to do it, but being okay with that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be the cantor for the local synagogue here for the high holidays, and I was invited to sing the Kol Nidre, which is like this opening prayer for Yom Kippur. And
Okay.
it's very interesting. I'm going to be putting out a video on this too, but it's a prayer. Basically, you're annulling all of your vows ahead of time. Any
Okay.
promises that I may make from now until the next Yom Kippur, they're annulled. They're not real. It's a fascinating thing. But within the culture, it's a very heavy prayer. It's considered as very important. It opens up the most important. Like Yom Kippur is that one day a year where like Jews that
Yeah.
may not attend, they'll go on that day. So it's a big deal. It's an honor that I'm given that opportunity. So I'm not a trained singer. I love singing. I've never regarded myself as a particularly skilled singer, but I'm devotional, right? But I want to sing this well, and I have this professional pianist accompanying me. And so she said, "Okay, Ari Moshe, I have the score here for this. It's a very complex piece. The melody. We can sing it in C minor or F minor." And
Okay.
I gotta make a choice. Okay, how do I know? So the song has such a wide range. It goes all over the place. So whether I start in C minor or F minor, there are stressful and hard places for me to sing.
Okay.
Right. In both cases, I'm needing to like either really like learn how to go higher or lower, or just like change the octave entirely. And so I really struggled with it. I mean, I think I went 2 weeks, and then I would be with her. I'm like, let's sing it again, but in C minor now, not in F. I kept on changing it. And I did an I Ching reading for guidance on just like, help me understand,
Yeah.
felt if I got so trapped in this, but I wasn't really stressed. I was really more so present with just the like simultaneously like aware that there's a growth here, and that I'm uncertain because I've never embraced this level of challenge.
Of
And
course.
what I eventually worked with is I chose one of the keys, not because I was able to determine that this is the better key for me, but I was able to find in that key, here are the places that kind of feel here are the challenges that kind of feel exciting for me, that I'm like willing to explore. That's it. I don't know if I would sound better in the other key. And I don't know if I would actually also really grow more learning how to sing lower versus learning how to sing high. It's like, how do I make those, you know what I'm saying? So there's something about, I think we're all learning as like a cultural theme, and I can relate to this, but I think this is a universal thing at our day and age, how to be a little more uncomfortable doing new things, doing hard things, challenging ourselves to develop skills and capacities, and to know that that's okay. Like, it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to not know how to do it. It's okay to stretch. And yesterday we practiced. I was practicing. I made this choice yesterday. So all
Okay.
day, for all morning, really, I was, for part of the morning, I was just like really going back and forth between the keys and working it until I made my final choice. But because I was practicing the song in 2 keys over and over and over again, I've probably in my life never practiced a song, well, either period or that much, hearing it, going to the piano, making sure I'm singing on it, getting really precise.
Yes.
By the time I went to practice with the pianist, my voice was open. I'm like, wow, I feel so much more.
Wow.
Yeah, because you are practicing. This is a real thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, students, if you don't know what to do, just practice and do it slower. I'm like, wow, I never knew. I mean, I've intellectually understood that you can practice training your voice,
Sure.
but I've never really known that I can do. You know what I'm saying? Like, other people can do that, but I don't. So there's just something about learning. I mean, I can speak a lot on dopamine and Pisces and how we don't put effort towards them. We don't put effort to earn our dopamine. That feeling of
Yeah.
satisfaction. When I'm singing on key and I reach that note and I feel like it's embodied, that's dopamine. The dopamine experience is where I have that experience of satisfaction with achieving something. A big issue, and this is very much a Virgo Pisces thing, we can experience that dopamine rush without putting any effort.
Yeah.
We didn't make those phones that we use. We can just sit on our bed and scroll. We don't even know how to fix those phones. Like, we're so disembodied from any kind of effort, and we can just receive all the stimulating pleasure input. So that's a very big learning, I think, collectively in this time, as revealed through the Virgo Pisces axis.
And something that I wanted to explore with you, and maybe we'll do another one of these Pluto and Aquarius or Aquarius signature, because that's one thing that I see with Pluto and Aquarius, or Aquarius per se, is that there's a side of Aquarius where the disconnection, the disembodied part of ourselves, right, the detachment, it keeps us in a state where it keeps a part of our emotional reality that is outside of the physical, outside of the actual Virgo process, right? So this natural inconjunct again between Virgo and Aquarius speaks to where that disconnection is, right? And so it's interesting to me how Uranus and Neptune transited Aquarius, and the onset of the internet became very strong and popular during that time. And of course, with Neptune moving through Aquarius, Facebook, YouTube, etc., and it's just kind of accelerated. And now we're sitting at a place where those planets have moved out of those signs into other signs, and we live in a world where that disembodied self is present. We have tech that now we can experience that consistent dopamine experience, that circuitry experience that keeps us disconnected, right? Because that dopamine just allows us to disassociate into those realms. And it's going to be really interesting to observe how we kind of wrestle with that challenge as a race when it comes to tech and how it disconnects us. I fear that there's going to be a split like that, where people are going to realize how that's not, and then other people are going to become more and more associated with tech as a way of life, and less connected with the earth and to the body and to our Saturnian experience.
I'm so glad you brought that in. That's such a great way to astrologically express that. And then it makes me want to consider the Yod with Virgo at the apex. So you got Virgo at the apex, you got Aquarius on one end, and I guess you got Aries on the other end.
Mm-hmm.
It's something, maybe that could be our next conversation. It's just something to contemplate when we think about Virgo as it relates to the endemic of not putting effort towards things. And even not being empowered or capable of engaging and dealing with, or the resistance to being stressed, or the resistance to being challenged. And then with Pisces over there at the trigger point. Let's
just check out. I just want to quickly add to that thing, what you shared there about the Yod. What's interesting about biological experiences, because you're bringing in dopamine, thinking about Aquarius as a stress signature, right? Very intense experiences happening all at once that because the nervous system experiences that energy at such a stress, it affects the way that the central nervous system and nervous system can operate. And so we'll come into states of dysregulation where freeze is one of those states, right? And so you got that Aquarius frozen in the moment, that then your agency, Aries, is now not present for you. And then that Virgo paralysis is very present, right? And then it just builds. The chaos just builds as we're kind of stuck in that place. And so
there's the Yod. That's it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. Then I guess the solution to that would be just take it one step at a time. Because
It,
that total dissociation and disconnect from action, and the Aries Virgo emphasis then really heightened that sense of I'm getting further and further and further away from what I need to be doing and where I need to be.
there's your Pisces boomerang point.
Forgive yourself and get started.
Exactly.
Do 5
It's,
push-ups, take a cold shower, research that thing that you need to find out about, say that next thing, clean your, just like start. That's the answer. And it's interesting that the cultural dissociation of that Aquarius Virgo, the trap of that would be to just stay in that astral plane.
yeah,
Just
that's
stay in
exactly.
that abstraction where you just think about it all.
Mm-hmm.
Or you just
Yeah,
post about it.
you post
A
about it.
post on Facebook, but you're still not doing anything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I think this immersion to me was very important, because I felt because it represents my own healing. Like a big part of my Aquarius rising is literally what you talked about. It was coming back into the body, coming back into experiences, not staying in that astral realm. And let's take astrology from the constellations and bring it back into the earth as well, so that there's this interplay between the constellations and the earth, right? So we're always looking there, but how about looking down here as well, and then making us a connection between the two, and synthesizing them.
Love that. It's so great. I mean, that full circle reminds me I should definitely do something with that whole movie idea.
Yes, that's what I wanted to say. That's why I actually brought it in. Was so I definitely think that it would be fascinating to see your way of bringing that through. I feel that there is a huge need, and definitely there is a huge thirst for people to want to learn astrology in a way that's not just cerebral. And I don't want to sit and just kind of study it in the textbook. I want to go and, where do I see it in the movies, like you did, right? That's a perfect Pluto moment.
It's just having this conversation reminds me how rich it could be when we're spontaneous. I mean, just watching a movie and saying, here are the 10 random astrological dimensions that we can bring out. Just watching a Virgo movie and having a conversation about these yodes and the squares and the inconjuncts and the sex. There's just so much learning that can happen when we flesh it out through something that's direct, that we're all
Yes.
entertained by, that we're inspired by. And
Yeah.
cool.
I want to share two things over here, but then I know that we should wrap up, because I know you've got some stuff to do, and for me too. I just wanted to circle back to the process of the Virgo experience and practice. So in the mentorship I have with my students, so the first step that they take in this Virgo step-by-step process that I've laid out for them is for them to watch a video. It's a short 2-minute clip of Jackie Chan in the movie Karate Kid.
Yeah.
And he's busy, and what he does is he tells the kid, he's like, jacket on, jacket off, right? And so he's teaching this kid that wants to learn karate, pick up the jacket, put it on the ledge, take off the jacket, drop it, pick it up the jacket, put it on the ledge, like this, right? And then at the end, he comes home and his mom says to him, "Hey honey, what did you learn today?" And he said, "Nothing, it was just completely boring." And usually when he comes home, he drops his jacket on the floor, but he doesn't. He picks it up and he puts it over there. And it's a single mom as well, right? So that's beautiful in the sense that it's great to have that stress not being available there. And that's just that moment of practice, in a way, changes things in our lives that sometimes we don't even know it's happening, but we feel the lack of stress. That's one moment, but also the practicing, right? Do it over, do it again, do it over. And eventually at some point, you're going to find this flow, this moment, and it's just going to be like that. And then all of a sudden you have this confidence that just comes from it. And that is where you want to meet the divine, right?
That is also that yod, where you can be in movement, doing the task, and in that Aquarian dimension, you're watching it happen.
Yes.
You're not considering, you're not worried about the details. It's just all happening on its own. And Aries, you're in the moment. It's just happening. You're moving forward. That's like the magic. Virgo.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I loved it. This was an amazing conversation. I deeply appreciate the space with you today, Ari, in so many ways. And I got so much positive feedback from people after they watched the first time that we chatted together, and I just felt like it was another great way to honor community and the space as well. So I appreciate the lots.
Yeah, let's do that again. And by the way, we should also make sure we mention for those listening.
Yes.
We are participating in the Evolutionary Astrology Online Conference, both giving a talk. This is happening the first weekend of October. We'll put a description to that in the links below.
Yeah.
Be sure to check it out. Simon and myself, and I think 12 or 13 other astrologers, many of the old timers who have been teaching this work, world renowned for several decades. We're all coming together for this conference. Very fascinating, well presented, well put together talks. Simon talking about Saturn and Pisces. I'll be speaking about Uranus and the submerged memories of the soul and how that influences our present moment perceptions. Many other fascinating talks.
Oof, I love that. I love that so much. And yes, it is 100% going to be an amazing conference. Privileged to be there with you as well as other people. And this is something that you guys should not miss out. 100%. So we'll make sure that all the information is in the description for you. Go check it out. I'm also aware that there is is it the Pluto? If you put in the word Pluto, there's a discount that comes along with it, if I'm not mistaken.
Discount if you put in Pluto. Also, if you become a member of the association, which is $99, you gain access to a class series we taught last year. It's 9 classes on different topics. You gain access to that, and you also get $50 off. So you can do the Pluto coupon, or you can become a member and you'll get a bigger discount and get a lot more teachings too.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. More Jeffrey Wolf Green EA.
Directly back to support the EA school itself.
Yeah.
So the way it's what's beautiful about this is this is like a pure Jeffrey Wolf Green EA, which it is rare. I mean, just really coming together just to honor and bring out the teachings. And part of this is actually supporting the school, which is a really good thing.
Absolutely. I love it in so many ways. It has enriched our lives in ways that we cannot describe. So what a beautiful way to honor it back.
Yeah.
Love it.
All right, brother. Great being here. It's a lot. Let's do it again.
Absolutely. We'll check in and we'll let people know.
Right.
All right.